this, I think we should be starting. Attendees will be trickling in, in next 5 minutes, 10 minutes or so. So why don't we start with the introduction? So first of all, thanks everybody who joined the call. I would request all of you to write down your company's name in the chat section, or you can also write your company's name in the beside your name. You can rename yourself to put the company's name. A little bit about EthAum Venture Partners. We are into blockchain space since 2016 or so, and EthAum is actually transforming itself into an accelerator in next 2 to 3 quarters or so. Today we are supporting some truly promising projects: blockchain, AI, ML, IoT, robotics projects with fundraising, software development, M&A, and those kind of things. And once we have a full-fledged accelerator going on, then we will be doing things like customer adoption and partnerships and those kind of things as well. So now we have Ian and Name on the call from Ferrum Network. Why don't we give them a chance to introduce themselves and talk about how amazing Ferrum is doing and what they have accomplished so far. Go ahead, guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pankaj, for that wonderful introduction. My name's Ian. I'm the COO and co-founder of Ferrum Network. I'm not going to spend too long on my background. I was a practicing attorney in New York City for many years, working at big law firms, and kind of transitioned to the blockchain practice space in the later part of my career. That's when I met Naeem, and we formed Ferrum Network. It's been almost a year now, actually, of startup life. So that's just pretty much my background.
So, hello guys. My name is Naeem. I am co-founder of Ferrum Network. My background is technical. I started learning about Bitcoin in 2008, when just very early. I was doing a PhD in distributed database systems at the time, which was very relevant to my field. So I read the white paper and I familiarized myself with it. Fast forward, I moved to US. At the time I was in Australia. I moved to US, worked for Microsoft. From there, I moved to Amazon for a few years. Last 3 years, I was in Bloomberg in New York City. And I basically built the Ferrum Network in about a year ago, and so I started making a business out of it about mid-2018, after I met Ian and we started the company. So Ian can continue the presentation, and I will jump back at some later point.
All right, great. Thanks, Naeem. All right, so we are Ferrum Network, and what we're doing is we're bringing world-class financial products and U.S. dollar stability to emerging markets around the world. I don't know how much time any of you have spent in the developing parts of the world. I've had the privilege of spending a bit of time in Nigeria, which is fortuitous because we ultimately end up, that's where we're launching our first product. But when you touch down in many of these countries, you immediately notice a stark difference with respect to financial services and ability to send money or really transact. So when I was there for the first time, being kind of a Bitcoin enthusiast, I thought, well, it won't be difficult to potentially sell some Bitcoin for some local currency. And that I quickly found that was not possible because of the quality of the exchanges and access to them was quite limited. So the only option was something called local Bitcoins. It involves meeting someone in person. It's obviously way too risky, so we didn't do that. So I said, okay, fine. We'll go to the bank and we'll draw some. We'll exchange some American dollars for some naira. Well, it turns out that that's really not possible either. The people we were staying with said you can't go to the bank. You'll end up spending all day there. It's possible the lights will turn off halfway through and you won't get your money. So what happened is, instead, they brought some little bags of cash, literally duffel bags of their local currency, and this is how we actually received the money that we were using throughout that first trip. It's just a story, I think, that just highlights the stark differences between the developing world and developed world when it comes to financial products. That's really the inspiration, one of the inspirations for Ferrum, for our products, was this really lack of advanced financial products at the hands of people, literally billions of people around the world. So what we've built is really kind of a cohesive ecosystem that provides people access to digital currencies, U.S. dollar stability, and of course, the most exciting part in our view is really the ability to send actual money instantly, peer-to-peer. So I think it's instead of going, I mean, really quick, I mean, the exchange itself is very simply allows you to buy and sell digital currencies. It's the fastest. It's going to be it's the least costly. It has the most features of any exchange in Nigeria. But that's not really what's exciting. I mean, so we're running the pilot program right now, and the feedback we're getting for these products is really just kind of blowing us away a little bit. So for example, we have a gentleman named Toyisi in the pilot program. He's actually now using our product line to pay his employees. So instead of using what he would used to use, which was a banking app, where it can take up to 24 hours to send money, he now sends money to his employees using our app, and that transaction clears in milliseconds. And the employees love it too, because they then immediately get their money. There's another funny story I sometimes tell. Our business partner on the ground in Nigeria, his name's Jermaine. Before he started working with us on this exchange and mobile payments app, he had a small kind of family-owned business, and he owed a contractor money. He needed to pay this gentleman and used one of these banking apps, and thought the transaction went through. But the guy appeared at his house the next day and was threatening his life, because it turns out the payment had not gone through, and it ended up taking over 24 hours for this contractor to get his money. So I mean, these are little kind of stories and anecdotes demonstrating a much larger problem that we were able to solve with our product, which you can basically think of it like a Coinbase, which is just it's the best digital currency, fiat to the digital currency exchange in the States, plus a WeChat. Okay, that's how people can easily and instantly send money to each other. And the really exciting thing, our partnership with HNWI, which is a Winklevoss twin company. We are the only exchange in West Africa to offer a U.S. dollar backed stable coin. And so that's very exciting for people like use product. She was into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies kind of from an investor standpoint. But now she really loves the ability to de-risk from the volatility of her and instability of the local currency, and hedge by purchasing what are effectively digital U.S. dollars. And so we're the only company in Nigeria to offer this product, and we've gotten tremendous feedback on that, because I just before I turn it over to Naeem, and he'll explain a little bit about sort of the unique selling points of the technology. When I was there in August for the first time, the naira, which is their local currency, was worth about 10% more than when I came back in December. So I mean, they have a real problem with instability of their currency, and now we're really just stepping in and able to solve this and saying, here's an app you can download, and now you can buy digital US dollars with the click of a button.
So what makes Ferrum really unique in that sense is the technology backing it. So if we're not just an app, we act with a bunch of databases, central databases. So we built, even before building liquidity, we have built a decentralized interconnectivity network. And this network is, you can think of competitors such as Icon. So Icon is worth more than $100 million right now in market cap. And the Ferrum network is already better in terms of it can support more interconnectivity, counterparties, it's faster, and it's significantly cheaper. So the underlying technology is really strong. We are building all these wallet and exchange and peer-to-peer fiat transactions all over the Ferrum network, even though we haven't launched Ferrum network yet. But the moment we have this underlying technology, which also gives us another competitive advantage, which means it would be almost frictionless to expand these solutions and these products to other markets and other financial services. So we don't need to remake anything. We just have to rebrand it and put it in. Right now it's in Nigeria, in other African countries, in Middle East, in Southeast Asia, anywhere that there is need. And hopefully when in future we can get the licenses, we can even launch these products in US and Europe. So we can, so the backend discussion on the backend of the technology can go really deep. I don't want to spend much more of the time of this presentation on that. I think I can go back to Ian to talk about our traction and marketing.
Yeah, thanks, Abe. So you guys may have, I mentioned earlier in the presentation that the first country we're launching in and where the pilot's being based is in Nigeria. So I just wanted to get into that market a little bit, because it's kind of it's a market that people have a lot of misconceptions about, but is actually really a perfect market fit for a product like this. So why Nigeria, right? It's a very large country and fast growing country. There's 200 million people, up from about 170 million even just a few years ago. The existing solutions for sending money around, buying digital assets are definitely leave the consumer wanting a lot more. Like I said, it can take up to 24 hours to exchange money there or send money around. It's the 7th largest market for digital currencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple. In fact, it was the 2nd largest market at one point during 2017, end of 2017 bull run. And as a developing country, there is an extraordinarily high demand for U.S. dollars. So we're able to basically fill these market needs by being the only exchange with a U.S. dollar-backed stablecoin, providing these instant money transfers. And we have local partners on the ground who are implementing a proven referral system to scale this product up. We have 400 users, slightly more than 400 users in the pilot right now, and it will not be difficult to scale that up to tens of thousands of users over the coming months. So like Naeem said, really one of the unique selling points of our solution is that because it's built on this decentralized network, the product can be expanded quite easily into other markets. And so that's the second phase is once the Nigerian solution is scaled up and fully running, then we can look to other emerging markets where these solutions are needed and implement our solution there. So I won't go into the competitive landscape too much other than to say there really is no other company, frankly, in the world, as far as we know, that's offering this kind of package of a digital fiat, digital currency to fiat exchange, plus like a WeChat pay type solution, and of course US dollar stable coins that come with that package, courtesy of our partnership with Gemini. So there's really no one else doing it. This is some of our projections. It's we just to get into that a bit more. We've on one of the more well-known blockchain figures in Nigeria onto the team, and he was able to scale up a competing exchange which doesn't have nearly the offerings or technology that we're bringing. He was able to scale them up to $5, even $10 million in some months of monthly volumes. So that's just kind of some examples of some of the ways we intend on exploiting this market, which is really a wide open market. On the team and stuff. So yeah, we're quite far along in technologically speaking, and in many other ways, but we're really we're valuing ourselves at 4 million, and I'm happy in a private setting to get into the basis for that, and we're raising 250,000 in the pre-seed round, and basically what this money will allow us to do is scale up the product using a referral system, get it in the hands of tens of thousands of users, perfect the business, and help bring this product into the hands of many thousands of people. All right, that's kind of it for the presentation. We're happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Naeem. If there's any question from the audience, you can either ask the questions by unmuting yourself, or you can also type the question in the chat section. There's a question from the audience in chat. What are the targeted countries of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're in preliminary talks with some connections in Colombia, some countries out of Southeast Asia. It really depends ultimately on a number of factors. So really the most important. So one of these factors is, okay, who can be a trusted partner on the ground, obtain who has or can obtain the licenses necessary to operate a fiat to digital asset exchange and money transfer business. We were able to partner with people very, very well respected and these people kind of at the higher end of Nigerian society, and they were able to obtain these licenses and banking relationships for us there. So it really depends on where we can find that, and we're in preliminary talks with a number of countries. But like any startup, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. We're really focused on making the product in Nigeria the best it can be, scaling that up to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of users, and then we can look to those other markets in a much more concerted way.
Okay, that's a good response. I think in my opinion, all the developing or underdeveloped countries could be a very great target country for the adoption and market extension. Countries like Venezuela, Ghana, Turkey, they all are seeing a lot of depreciation in terms of their currency, and I think they would all appreciate a platform like Ferrum Network. Okay, is there any other question from the audience for Ferrum? As I mentioned earlier, it is probably 2:23 a.m. for I think we can appreciate in the night presenting about Ferrum. So that's a very, very dedicated gesture, I guess. Thank God, Ian and Name. If there are more questions, I'll send them your way. And everybody in audience, I will be sending the follow-up email with the pitch deck and project summary. And if there are questions, and if you want to have one-on-one follow-up calls with Ian and Name, then we'll schedule. You're free to be going to the second presentation. Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
We will be talking about, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. So I will be presenting Aggregion. Founders of Aggregion were not able to talk, but yeah, I have been working with them for quite some time now, and I think I know enough to talk about the project. So let's go and understand what Aggregion is. So first of all, this is a platform for intellectual property licensing and rights governance. Okay, so we have seen that there are multiple platforms or multiple ERP solutions when it comes to moving the physical goods, supply chain of the physical goods. But when it comes to IP and digital licenses, the overall industry is still dealing with a lot of Excel files and army of engineers who is actually managing all the data, collecting all the data, and sending that data back to the digital license creator. So when Aggregion was in process of getting the customer, trying to understand customer problem statement, they talked to Disney, they talked to Pearson, Microsoft, and a bunch of other digital license creators. And they tried to understand what are the exact problem statements that these companies are facing. And Disney mentioned that, hey, we have tens of thousands of products that we sell through thousands of channels into different markets. But the overall process is very cumbersome, very time consuming, and pretty inefficient. So the problem is that once the IP or digital license leaves copyright holder and it goes to the distribution channel or the reseller, the transparency, the visibility, the lack of the control, everything just goes away. Now, the digital license creator doesn't have any control on how the digital license is moving, where it is going, whether the person who owns the license now has all kind of right authorizations or not. The second thing is that the overall process is very inefficient because there is a lot of manual work needed by a bunch of managers and IT people and people who only work on the Excel file. So a lot of inefficiency is involved when you have to distribute the digital licenses. And because of that, because the process is so complicated, it takes so much time, 6 to 12 months, and there's no real transparency involved. The overall process takes a lot of time, and that delays the overall revenue for the digital license makers. So what Aggregion is doing is that they are creating a complete solution where all these parties like copyright holders like Disney, Microsoft, Pearson, and their content like film, video, ebooks, SaaS solution, and all the resellers or channels and all the consumers can be placed on one particular platform, and that's what Aggregion is creating. So you can think like a Visa MasterCard solution for the payment. This is pretty much similar to Visa MasterCard solution for the payment. Aggregion is very similar solution for the digital licenses. All the transactions between copyright holders and consumers will be flowing through Aggregion. Now, Aggregion will not be a direct participant. Consumers will not be seeing Aggregion as one of the channels, but all the transactions, all the relationships will be happening through Aggregion platform. And in the back end, all the digital licenses and supply chain will be connected on the platform. As you can see, copyright holders like Disney, Pearson, Microsoft, sales channels like Softline, Hamleys, Tele2, X5 Retail Group, and the consumers will be on the single ecosystem. Now, all these people that I mentioned earlier, Disney, Microsoft, Hamleys, Softline, Tele2, they all are current customers of Aggregion. Now, this is a SaaS UI-based, facing solution for the companies like Disney. Now, from this particular platform, Disney will have all the authority, all the control on what kind of data, what kind of digital licensing should be flowing to who, and what particular distributor has what kind of authorization for distributing that particular license forward. So the digital license maker or producer has all of that capability in its hand. On the distributor side, on the reseller side, they'll be able to see how many activation codes have been generated and what does the sale look like for different kind of licensing product. So they will have complete information, complete data on Aggregion platform, and they won't have to create a bunch of Excel files and manage them separately manually. Now, in terms of market validation, Aggregion was able to see that, hey, because of all the manual work that these distributors, resellers, and the IP generators are doing, there's at least 25% increase in the operational cost. And if there's increase in the cost, then obviously the margins are not that great for the digital IP makers, and also the overall end product becomes really costly for the end user. So and this 25% additional cost in the operations could be reduced by Aggregion ecosystem, by Aggregion platform. Now, 20% of market share opportunity cost because of all the time-taking process and manual process which is involved into distributing the licenses and controlling everything. And that leads to market monopolization by major channels like Netflix. Now, 40% revenue is taken by the distributors and other resellers who are not really adding a lot of value in the overall ecosystem for the digital license creators. If they could be removed because of the Aggregion ecosystem, then that will be a very big deal for the digital license makers. In terms of market size, OTT videos close to $120 billion by 2020, digital publishing almost $65 billion by 2019, and the biggest market is SaaS and software, almost $500 billion by 2019. So what is the revenue model for Aggregion? What they do is that they charge a fee for each transaction. So for example, they processed almost 10 million licenses in 2017 and 2018. And every license requires at least 2 transactions. So what Aggregion is charging is that they are charging 2 cents per transaction. So for example, if you have a series of 10 episodes, then there'll be 10 licenses that will be needed to transact, and there'll be 20 transactions required. And if Aggregion is enabling 25 million licenses, then they will be making $1 million USD revenue. And that's the target for 2019 based on the customer traction that they have, based on the requirements that they have from their existing customers. So 25 million licenses in 2019 will be equal to $1 million USD revenue for them. So as I mentioned earlier, that they have processed almost 10 million licenses in 2017, 2018, and they have been able to acquire some really big clients like Disney, Pearson, Microsoft, Intel, Softline, some really big guys in the space of digital license creating. Now, in terms of competition, there are some companies who are doing similar kind of stuff, but nobody is looking into B2B2C. Most of the companies are either doing B2B or B2C. The other biggest competitive advantage for Aggregion is that they have real market adoption. They are trusted by the major brands like Disney, Microsoft, Intel, Softline, Tele2, and the technology has been proven by these clients. So that's a very important market validation for them. In terms of team, Nukri is the CEO of company. He is based out of mostly in Russia and Europe. And he is nuclear physicist, has been trying to improve the digital licensing since 2011 or so. Dennis and Nukri have been working together for a really long time. Dennis is the CTO, and Dennis is managing the overall development and this is based out of New York, looking into business development and strategy. Antonio is based out of UK, and Alex is based out of US. And Alex is mainly working on business expansion into different part of the world. Now, they have a lot of clients, a lot of customer traction in UK, in Europe, Russia. But what they are trying to do is that they are trying to expand into newer markets such as North America and Asia. Of the investors, they are looking for total $7.5 million. They already raised approximately $6 million, $1.5 million from Techemi and Hightower, and remaining from BlackRock Capital. Current token pricing is 5 cents per token. And I was talking about BlackRock Capital, which is founded by Vlad Martino, who is one of the advisors and investor into Ethereum ecosystem. So based on the valuation of $24 million, they have 5% equity remaining for $1.2 million USD. So that's about Aggregion. Let me know if there's any question from the audience. If there's no question, then we can move to the next presentation from Olympia. Let me just check the chat section if they. Okay, there's one question. The transactions, did they come from this Microsoft, Pearson? Who was the biggest digital license maker for the company in 2017, 2018? So the most of the transactions in 2018 came from Pearson. The second number of transactions, so second highest from Disney, and then Microsoft. Disney and Microsoft are now giving more projects, the scope of work is increasing from Disney and Microsoft, and that will be almost similar to Pearson in 2019 timeframe. One thing that I forgot to mention is that Aggregion had cloud-based solution in 2017 and 2018, and they moved to the blockchain solution in Q4 of 2018. All their customers like Disney, Microsoft, Intel, Softline, Tele2, they have moved to the blockchain solution from the cloud-based solution already. So that's one really exciting thing about the project. Okay, if there's no further question, then we can move to Olympia. Hey, Pierre, Pedro, please feel free to unmute yourself and start sharing your screen.
Hello, everybody. Let's share the screen.
Okay, now it is working.
Yeah, let me hold on one sec. Okay. So, can you see our screen right now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, very good.
Can you please go into presentation mode?
Yeah. Up. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so hello everybody. We're gonna take you through through Olympia. This is a sports project. So basically, the whole idea of Olympia and the whole issue we see in the sports world is all about the attractiveness of real sports. This guy on the picture, actually on the left, that's me and my bro. And that was a few years ago. And you know, at that time when I was 8, there's probably nothing that would have made me that happy with such a beautiful smile as playing with a racket and a ball. But unfortunately, I'm not sure today if I was an 8 years old boy, I would do the same. Maybe I would be more in video games, or I would be more chatting or doing things, digital sports, whatever. But probably not on the field. So what happened? The issue is probably that nothing happened really to the sports industry. Digitization has not really impacted the sports experience. I'm not talking about the professional. I'm talking about the billion of people practicing sports at the grassroots. And so that's the main issue in the sports world we're trying to tackle. One of the main cause, by the way, of this is the fragmentation of the market. And good example, for example, showing you how difficult it is to have a good experience in sports is, in this case, this is tennis that I was practicing at that time. You know, it's very easy right now to find online. For example, you want a hotel for tonight, wherever you are. In 3 clicks, you would be able to book a hotel. In the case of racket sports, I would really bet that it's going to be very complicated for any of you if you would like to play tennis in 2 hours, for example. Find a partner, find a court, book the court, everything. It's very complicated, almost impossible, and this is not normal at this stage with all the technology we have. So the world we're trying to build is this world where we get engaged again. Connected with grassroots sports and with values, and the main actually fitting with the fragmentation of the market is really about building a universal database for sports, a place where all the data would be there in one single place based on the blockchain, of course. Like a real passport with the data from everybody, from all athletes, all grassroots athletes in the world. it would really trigger and enable many of the apps, of the sports apps that there are in the world right now. For instance, we can do a nice comparison with if you go to the doctor, for example. Each time you go to a doctor, if you don't have the full picture of the patient, it's going to be very difficult for the doctor to have a thorough analysis of what's going on and understand this guy. And the same thing with sports. At the end, we have data in one app, data in another app, data in another app. But there is not full trust platform where you can share the data actually in between as well and across the different apps and different service providers. So that's the main solution we're trying to bring. Underlying other solution as well, linked to this platform, also bringing more basically gamification, global gamification tool, universal gamification tool. Thinking, for example, when it comes to finding a partner, playing with someone, it's not just finding someone, it's finding someone the same level. So universal level is very important. Once again, I'm coming back to racket sports there, but there are ranking for every single country. So people can't speak together. There is no universal language. And even within the same club, there are several leagues, etc. And everybody, unfortunately, think they are very good. So if this is self-informed, if it's not based on results and statistics and data that are trust data, it's complicated because everybody thinks basically that they have a good level, or some people would think they have they are weak while they have a very, very standard level. So that's very important. So we're introducing as well a couple of tools, universal rating, and also some rewarding. We think that one other issue in the market is that only the best players are rewarded, the professionals. So gamification is not there. Gamification is very strong in video games and many things, but not in real sports. So that's another thing we want to bring. So in terms of go-to-market strategy, right now, we have achieved to build a marketplace. We started with the marketplace actually for racket sports, a vertical. It has about 200,000 active users right now. It's kind of a Facebook meets Tinder with a marketplace integrated in it. It's called CTO. CTO has a strong partnership already, but that's the marketplace, all right? So we're building a database through that. And we started having a lot of data of matches, etc. You can create match, find partners. It's also there is also a SaaS solution that we're offering through this marketplace. So it's B2C as well. And this generates a lot of match even with official match. We're working with a lot of federations, for example, that use our software or SaaS to create competition. We have, for example, the largest tennis tournament in the world, 30,000 people that using our software. We are the official of the USPTA, the US Professional Tennis Association, etc., for competition and for club management. This is the phase one. We are done with this phase. We already engaged. We should be about 1 million users by the end of the year. We're activating right now the marketing campaigns. The phase two will be to build this aggregator. Basically, we're creating a lot of data on CTO. What we're going to do is we're going to separate a bit that data, build it on the blockchain, that database, build this platform on the blockchain for the management of the database, and then aggregate other services. That could be competitors of CTO, or that could be in other areas, other sports. So that's the phase two. That's really becoming an aggregator as well. And the last phase will be to become as well a channel through an app. Actually, the platform, the database platform, we call it Olympia, and the whole project name is Olympia. Okay, so this database platform, once it aggregates other services, we're also going to create an app for Olympia that will distribute actually the different services from the different providers. In other words, we don't want to create all kind of verticals. We have one. It enables actually the activation of the database, the platform. But the future is not to build all this service and bring this service, but to definitely distribute them through an app, a bit of a WeChat where you can find different apps there and activate them from one single place. So it would be the one-stop for all athletes where they manage their identity, very importantly, across all the apps. They're going to have aggregation of all their data. And of course, they're going to be able to find the right service wherever they are in the world. They're gonna find and discover new apps and can reach these apps through this super app in a way. In terms of monetization, so you understand there will be two areas. One is CTO, is the vertical, because we're gonna keep it. It's possible that in the future we have a spin-off, but we think for the moment we're gonna keep this vertical. So the monetization on CTO mainly come from two sides. First of all, we have player premium membership. In other words, you pay between $2.95 and $19.95 in order to have. You don't have to look for matches. The matches will come to you. You don't have to book courts. Courts will be booked for you. It could replace, for example, the club membership we have until now. You know that, and we can compare to all these Ubers or Airbnb. We could be the largest club in the world without having a court, in a way, because once again, people will get to CTO, get their membership there, and courts are included, players are found already, etc. You don't have to do anything. You don't have time to look for a coach. You don't have time to look for players. So everything's going to be organized in the premium membership. Otherwise, it's free. CTO is free, so you can still get there and look for the partners, etc., based on their level or their record stats, etc., and find the right match for you. The second business model there is based on transaction. We charge a 5% commission on each transaction, code bookings, etc. So it could be code booking, but it could be registration to tournament, registration to events, etc. All this is included in the CTO vertical. So all these transactions basically have a cost, and we charge a little percentage on this. On the Olympia side, the Olympia is the database platform. Once again, we're going to generate a lot of data there, and we are definitely a data-driven company on Olympia. So business model is definitely based on this, some big data, on segmented data, very segmented data, by the way. And at the moment we launch the app, we're also going to get engaged with advertising. We're going to be able to directly communicate through the app with players, and so we can do nice campaigns with for sure a chatbot, etc. We think about the advertising more as messaging, and this is the trend right now, rather than displaying like a social network on the app, etc., like in the newsfeed, etc. We definitely think in terms of more messaging, more proactive communication as well. So just a word about competitors. The platform business, we know it's killing all pipeline business. So already big guys in the pipeline world, hardware manufacturer, exactly the same shift has made Apple as a hardware manufacturer to becoming more of a software. I mean, some try to do it in the sports world, some giants. We're talking about Nike. It's more focused on the fitness. They already have a huge community there with 120 million people on their Nike Plus app. But once again, it's more on the fitness side. It's all under the umbrella of Nike as well, which is something that could be tricky because some are not fan of Nike. They are maybe fan of Adidas. So we're not sure this is something we would like to go for. We really prefer to have an independent database like our that is not hooked to any brand that really appeal and is really universal. It appeals to everyone. Under Armour has a different strategy because they acquire several apps, so they don't have one app. They have plenty of apps actually, but there again they tackle the fitness, everything that is walk, run, etc. Sport Engine, owned by NBC Sports, is definitely as well more into our in the sports we tackle, which are more play golf, basketball, football, soccer, tennis, whatever it is. Sport Engine is very niche for the moment, but it's really focusing on the facility booking, not on the social features. But that's another giant that is really coming into this platform for sports that's becoming very popular and fashionable. So just a word about the team. Maybe I will let Pedro introduce himself.
Yes, very quickly. My name is Pedro Perez. I'm the CTO of Olympia, of the company. I'm myself engineer and also MBA. I started my career 20 years ago, like investment analyst for telecom projects into a big multinational, which is Movistar. And then I moved towards started my own companies into the internet and online field. I started companies in different areas and different parts of the world, in Europe, in US and South America, and in travel, fashion, education, so in different fields. And I also was involved into the blockchain world since 2012, and that's why I entered into contact with the blockchain and this kind of amazing technology that for sure will change the world as we knew today. I'm right now in Olympia. I'm managing the digital strategy, the technology layers, and of course the blockchain project.
And from my side, so I'm Pierre. I'm the CEO and founder. Basically, my background is tech. I'm a chemist by training, but I moved to business. Worked for Procter & Gamble already in marketing position. I worked for a couple of other big corporations like Total, Fina. I also worked extensively into the sports field since I was general manager for Head, one of the largest racket sports manufacturer, and I myself have a passion for tennis. I used to play on the professional circuit. That's also why there is all these rackets in this presentation, even if once again the project is, we started with racket sports vertical, but we really all sports. Basically, I'm an entrepreneur for the last 10 years. I had successful exit track records, especially in Asia with other type of business. It was more distribution. We set up a chain there of retail food in China. I've been working in several places in the world. I've been based in really globally. I used to work in Africa as well, in West Africa, in Bamako, working for governments there. I used to work as well in Russia. I was based in Moscow for a while, and also in Asia. So we have also a development team. Maybe Pedro, you can say a few words about the development team.
Yeah, basically we have right now 10 full-time engineers working in different specialties. We have people for iOS, Android, backend. So the whole full stack of services we need right now, they are working full-time with us. And we as we are starting working on the blockchain, we have 3 external consultants working for us. They are experts in the blockchain world.
In terms of advisors, we have a good mix of strong advisors, people we know from a long time. Jorge Salquer, for example, is the senior VP of Octagon, the largest sports management company, and Eddie Travia is a well-known guy in the blockchain sphere, of course. Andrea, Toby Jenner, who is the actual CEO of Mediacom, one of the largest media company in the world. We have experts as well in other fields in China. We have also, of course, legal experts, very important when it comes to project links to the blockchain as well, and in finance as well. We have also athlete ambassadors. We are a sports project. We will need them. We haven't activated many campaigns. We have prepared already campaigns. That's why I told you before on CTO side, we're going to activate. That's why we have 200,000 users. It's really organic growth. We have not done any marketing kind of. And we've been testing several campaigns, growth hacking. And so that's why also we are very confident we can reach the 1 million by the end of the year. We already have also strong partnerships. So we have plenty of top players. We have Vika Azarenka, former number 1. Caroline Garcia, one of the top 10 players in the world. Actually, Caroline also invests in a business. David Goffin, who was top 10, he just got out of the top 10, but he was top 10 until a couple of months ago. David also invested in our business, etc., etc. We have the number 1 Italian tennis player, Fabio Fognini. Same in Portugal, Joe Souza, etc. So we have Tatsuma Ito in Japan. So we have no problem to reach the players because basically we're reaching their heart as well, and they want to participate to this project. That's what we saw. We just stopped a bit on that side of ambassadors because right now we are more into building the business. We don't need that many. We're preparing the plans and the media campaigns. We already have enough players. We have blockchain partners when it comes specifically to blockchain, of course. Pedro, maybe you.
Yeah, we have a branch of partners into the blockchain from from the investment side to the technology side to the tokenomics and of course for the legal side, which is quite important for our business. So we have top class partners into the blockchain world.
I mentioned already some of the partners we have in the sports world, but once again, we're working with some of the leading federation in the world. International Padel Federation. Padel is the fastest growing sport in the world right now, with millions of practicants in Spain, for example. Octagon, I mentioned them. The USPT, I mentioned them. This is the US Tennis Association, basically professional tennis association. National Tennis Club, which is the largest tennis tournament in the world, etc., etc. Many federations. Actually, we have more than 30 federations that use the software to manage their business. It means that all players federated to this federation must be on CTO, for example, and must have their data on Olympia as soon as we start with the platform. So in terms of revenue projection, you see the three main line, the big data, the advertising. So we're not activating the big data and advertising this year. We're still building the platform, but we do have CTO. And we're going to start activating actually only this year the premium membership. Right now, we're just doing a SaaS kind of business model, which is far less than everything I mentioned, transaction fees and also the premium membership. So most of CTO revenue is going to come from that, with a very strong growth in 2020, because really this is once again the moment where we activating all this premium membership, which is the main source of income. Just a quick word as well about the investment opportunity. So we had a seed round, which allowed us to build everything we have right now of 1 million. We are now getting into a Series A with a 5 million round with a pre-money valuation of 20 million for the company. And we expect probably a Series B a bit later, 2020, or maybe early 2021. That would definitely help us scaling up quite dramatically all the business, and really establishing the platform globally and making it like a place to be for any athlete in the world. And the objective, the final objective, is obviously after 2022, 2023 to go for an IPO. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we talk about that. I think this is it for us. So if you have any question.
Thanks a lot, Pierre and Pedro. That was a really nice presentation. Let me see if we have any question from the audience. Any question from the audience for Olympia team? Again, you can ask your questions verbally, or you can write them in the chat section as well, whatever is convenient for you. Okay, looks like no questions so far. Thanks a lot, Pierre and Pedro. I will let you know if there are any questions. I'll send them to you later. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll be connecting you with the team via email. I'll be sending you the summary and pitch deck separately, and then we'll be having one-on-one calls with the team later on. Now, I have another presenter, Amir. He is in a conference, but he was able to find a conference room, right, to present about the. Okay, perfect. So so far you have seen some blockchain projects, but now we are getting into VR/AR project. I don't think there's any association of blockchain there, right? So Amir, why don't you introduce yourself and start talking about Virtual Leap? Thank you.
Great, and I'm just going to try to share my screen.
Pierre, can you please stop sharing so that Amir can probably start sharing?
Well, I'll give a quick intro as I wait for that.
Sure.
So Amir, co-founder of Virtual Leap, as already introduced. I am a Vancouverite who has spent quite some period of time in Asia, and particularly Dubai. And my background is in market research, particularly quantitative studies that are done online. I've managed some of the big online research panels for Fortune 500 brands, like the NFL and Electronic Arts, and many entertainment brands like these. And during my time in Dubai, I was exposed to a variety of emerging technologies. And about 3.5 years ago, I ventured into writing and specializing in research on the burgeoning industry of virtual reality and augmented reality. And sometimes you also hear of the division of technology named as mixed reality, but it's all basically one single spectrum of immersive devices and headsets and haptic gear. Haptic is the type of technology that allows you to be able to feel and actually interact physically with VR, AR, and MR technologies. Now, I'm a regular writer on VentureBeat, the tech blog. I write more occasionally for TechCrunch and other blogs, but VentureBeat is my more or less home. And so I make it an important kind of monthly activity to take a lot of the research I do as an industry analyst and put it out there into the public domain. However, the startup that I ventured into, VirtuLeap, as you'll be presented on right now, it began when about 2.5 years ago, I was invited by Google and a few of the other front runners in this technology, like Mozilla and Samsung Internet and Oculus by Facebook, to run together a series of hackathons run online. And these hackathons were basically an effort by the community and sponsored by these hardware manufacturers and big players to catalyze content creators. And so when we ran these events, I was able to benefit from the fact that I could see the low-hanging fruit of where the industry gaps were. Where were the biggest pain points or bottlenecks or things that were missing in the ecosystem that really needed to be introduced for the benefit of content creators, developers, and publishers. Thankfully, it was something that what I spot was what related to my background as a market researcher, and is that really a lot of the elements in terms of analytics were missing. And what's cool about this industry is that it connects with my passion and obsession with psychology, especially the relationship between the body and the mind. I mean, we're all, more or less anecdotally familiar with the concept that, with the idea that body language plays a big part in how we express ourselves and communicate. But for the most part, it's not the kind of idea that we can really take full advantage of in real life. Well, thanks to virtual reality and augmented reality devices, we can now take this abstract concept and make it into a tangible and practical source for consumer insights. We can enable the body to speak. So 2018 was an awesome year for the VR and AR industry. And this is particularly because the enterprise sector, like automotives and airlines in particular, and also retailers like Walmart, the Army. I mean, all the types of boring industries that 4 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago, the media didn't really showcase too much. They were always focused on, primarily positioning the industry as a consumer sector phenomenon first, and that's where the majority of the revenue will come from and use cases. That's all wrong. All the factory floors and all the industries that have to deal with really complex and advanced machinery where safety levels and production levels and performance levels are the key thing. This is where VR and AR is finding its home first and foremost. And last year proved that. A lot of the enterprises are very much adopting the technologies and doubling down. Beyond that, a lot of the headsets that we've been waiting for without all of these cumbersome cords and the ones that you can't really move freely around, Now the standalone headsets have arrived, the ones that don't have any cords, and that they are basically mobile, just as the world has become, mobile first, and these devices were mandatory to come. They arrived last year. Also, VR arcades, or the location-based VR experiences, these began to trend last year outside of Asia. Before that, Asia has been, really booming with VR and AR, except unfortunately for me, you really do need to be a native of, for example, China to really know what's going on. A lot of the activity does not get translated out into English, and there is a current problem with that very much in terms of how do you start to bridge the two worlds, and there's a lot of challenges for that, as you can imagine. So the reason that the enterprise in particular, and even a lot of, there's certain consumer sectors that do also thrive right now, despite the overall consumer sector having, some time before it will really properly matures and evolves. But the reason they love it so much, again, is, as I mentioned, it has proven time and time again to increase production performance and safety levels for enterprise use cases, and particularly training and remote engineering support. Now, right now, for 4 or 5 years at least, airlines like EasyJet have been using these AR, kind of like Google Glass, sunglass kind of devices that have been used for remote engineering support, but particularly in use cases like, let's say there's a specialist in Washington, D.C., and they need to be able to travel all the way to Portland, Oregon to help in a very sensitive and time-sensitive kind of situation in solving a problem with a type of machinery that only that specialist is informed on. Before, you'd have to travel. There's a lot of time involved with that. They have been using for the last 3 to 5 years, basically allowing that specialist to link in with virtual reality, and the person who is that they're helping is linking to them with augmented reality glasses. So in this particular case, you're basically transporting someone from another, geographical destination that would never be so quick and fast and effective before. And it's not experimental tinkering anymore. It has evolved. It has become a best practice, and it's being spread across other business cases because the training managers and the HR managers and the executives and management of these companies, from Airbus to Boeing to Porsche to Ford, to factory floors of industrial factories and companies, they are all seeing the effective employment of this technology. It is not a hype cycle sector anymore. In fact, last year, Gartner removed VR from the Gartner hype cycle. It is not considered a hype cycle sector anymore. And that is particularly because of enterprise. So when you think about this industry, don't read the media and the journalists who are continuously, I don't really understand how the media works, but as an industry analyst, I can see what I'm seeing in terms of numbers. And for some reason, they focus only on validating this industry by the consumer sector alone. And that just seems very silly at this point. So as I mentioned, from where I'm standing, the market research industry has been missing from the party. I don't know exactly why that is. I think the market research industry perhaps is rather slow to adopting emerging technologies. But the fact of the matter is that they're not being present at this current state means that at this stage of the industry means that it's a huge problem for VR and AR creators, as well as companies like Enterprise that are trying to take advantage of the new paradigm and the new medium, because each one, when this is missing, each one has to go ahead and develop their own approach to, what are benchmarks, what are standardized metrics. There are companies that offer, basic functional analytics, because they're like basically copying and pasting what Google Analytics does for 2D, and thinking that, this approach for 3D vehicles like VR and AR would do the same trick. That's not the case, because in VR and AR, you have an additional dimension, as you can expect. This dimension is the human-centric dimension. It is the fact that these devices are collecting a whole new layer of data. When you don't take that into account, you're missing one of the most important parts of a virtual and digital realm that is imitating the real world. So how do we solve the situation of being able to track this additional dimension in VR and AR environments? Well, we have leveraged neuroscience research and machine learning to create mathematical models that allow us to translate subliminal body language into psychographics. We can know whether someone is angry, sad, stressed, nervous in a different way, or bored out of their minds. Insights that are extracted from a user's unconscious postures, gestures, and motion in VR and AR environments. The kind of insights that would otherwise require, before VR and AR was ever, part of reality, they would require a survey or a user interview in order to capture. So what our algorithms do is create a series of new data points that we call nodes. And these nodes capture a variety of different inputs. For example, swaying of the body, gesticulation of the hands, expressions like these. Most of the things that we capture using many years of behavioral studies, the ones that are relevant, and choosing the ones that are relevant and applying them and employing them in the mathematical models. These are insights that can serve as benchmarks, and they're very useful as far as benchmarks go. But when we combine these nodes together, they form into what we call stories that convey contextualized insights about the human condition that have never been able to be quantified in this manner before. What's even cooler is that, with the help of machine learning, as our API, continuously encounters new profiles and starts to see patterns in those profiles. Well, basically the patterns in psychographics correlating to the patterns that they kind of connect to in terms of demographics, we can begin, our API, better said, is able to start to see those patterns and be able to offer predictive analytics to our clients. So with the help of machine learning, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and swims like a duck, well then our API will calculate the probability of how likely it is that that anonymous user is in fact a duck. So any client, let's say that wants to take our API and plug it into their VR or AR content, if it's consumer facing or whether it's internal to their company, our API will offer probabilities of what their psychographic background is. Now, this is important not from the point of view of the negative way of looking at this technology, because it's absolutely inevitable, this type of neurotech technology. But the benefits outweigh the cons in the sense of, if you give your user informed data privacy rights, and they understand fully that they can disable and enable this technology, and they're well aware that if you enable this technology, they can get insights about themselves that in a workplace condition can offer a lot of insights that can help them adjust and engage at the workplace, as well as in certain conditions even have the highest safety levels possible. Well, then our technology is able to let the body speak and tell truths about people's abilities that can be extremely beneficial, especially in high stress situation jobs, which is why we're in talks with the likes of Lockheed Martin, where in particular situations that are high stress, as you can imagine with a company like theirs that is in industries like aerospace and so on. High stress situations require as many insights as possible about the human condition, which, in the research industry, if you ask a question to somebody, often you'll find that they in fact don't know themselves as well as you think. Behavior actually contradicts attitudinal insights more often than you think or would like. The machine learning of our API can continuously generate new insights from digesting old patterns basically stored in the database of the API. On a consumer oriented note, we've been partnering with a company called NextVR, which is essentially a consumer oriented platform that allows you to watch NBA games, NFL games, WWE games, and now most recently the NHL games you can watch sports as if you're front row and courtside. And we are partnering them, and they've pitched our technology to the NBA, and the NBA has we're moving forward with that project, that pilot project. And what the NBA wants to do initially is a low-hanging fruit solution where basically we would track the behavioral metrics of their audience during the course of a match or game, and pinpoint the moments of highest excitement and engagement. And at the end, we would offer that spectator a customized highlight reel based on their personal peak moments. I mean, how cool is that? We always have, for the last few decades, maybe more actually, we've been watching, and if we missed the match, we want to watch the news report, and at the tail of the report, we would see an arbitrary set of best moments, and that's great. But now we're coming to a point at time where you can actually offer a user their most engaged moments of any experience. And of course, when the medium is VR and AR, and you can actually track the 360 moments and things that 2D TV and television shows and movies on the screen, your kids and your grandchildren are going to find your stories of how you used to watch and engage with content just bizarre. Because the future we're going in, because of technology enabled by our API, like this, will be able for content to understand you and remember you and remind you of what is most important to your personal experience, not some guy or a person who wants to arbitrarily find that out for you. But the truth is that our technology has widespread applications, and our vision is for immersive content to, as I mentioned, adapt to the specific needs of every human being, to their maximum user comfort and personal preferences. And it basically opens up a new branch of human-centric research, design, and marketing that we believe will be key for the new medium. Now, aside from the ad hoc, bespoke pricing that we're offering our pilot partners at the current time, what we're doing is developing a platform that we will release later in the year, which will be based on a more or less standard SaaS model based on server calls and access to additional features like advanced reporting. But the base model is envisioned to be a DIY SaaS platform where, based on server calls, based on usage, you would be charged. And this is more or less because I believe personally that I would love to have a company that increasingly is not based on the agency model. I mean, I think it's inevitable that we will always have to have a strong account management workforce, particularly for the more premium and enterprise users that are because the amount of data that we're collecting for in terms of server usage can get into the trillions of data stored in terms of records. So it is intensive if it does become rolled out as a proper SaaS model. But for the time being, I think it'll be inevitable also for us to have these ad hoc projects. And we're currently raising our seed round. This is primarily to grow our team in Lisbon, which is where we're primarily headquartered. Our parent holding company is UK based because we would like to, for a bunch of reasons. One, the UK has a thriving VR/AR ecosystem. The government has a series of grants that they roll out every month that we would like to apply for personally. But besides for that, I think it's important as far as being open to investment from the US as well as from the East. A lot of the early stage investors in the US are not open to having the legal documentation in other languages than English. And for my part, I also agree with that, even internationally. And that's another perk of being based in the UK. You don't have to be Delaware based necessarily, but you can be UK, and that's an option still open to US investors and keeps us globally open. And as well, we have a research partnership currently formed with a UK-based university, Anglia Ruskin in Cambridge, where we would like to work closely with as we further develop these algorithms, fine-tuning their accuracy We have about 11 emotions that we have validated so far, but it's just continuously getting more and more subtle in what they can identify. And universities can be a really good aid, of course, as you can imagine, aside from the fact that working with them means that we can have the extra third-party kind of stamp of approval in the mathematics that we are creating, giving the market that much more confidence. Our team is about 9 and 10 if you count our one part-time UX designer that we have on board, 9 to 10 members strong. Myself, I've run hundreds of quantitative surveys during my time at Ipsos, Vision Critical, and YouGov, and I've, as I mentioned, covered the VR and AR space for major tech blogs for years now as an industry analyst. Roland Dubois is an award-winning design and accessibility expert. He is the mastermind of the original concept now that our product has evolved into. He is based in New York, which is where we would like to have our US hub, grow maybe hopefully by the end of the year. Hossein Jalali is a cross-platform developer with over 15 years of experience, and I've worked with him half that time running an agency in Dubai, a digital agency. And, we have 2 neuroscientists on board with years of VR-specific research already under the belt, which is a huge, huge benefit because it's allowed us to hit the ground running in creating our breakthrough algorithms. And, you'd be hard-pressed to go ahead and search and find neuroscientists already with that kind of experience, portfolio of experience in this sector. So it's a huge advantage. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much for going through it with me, and I'm ready for questions if there are any.
Thanks a lot, Amir. Is there any question for Amir on Virtual Leap from the audience? One question from the audience is that what is the current valuation of the company and revenue, if there is any?
Yes, it's 4.8 million USD in valuation. And in terms of revenue, we're just signing the initial pilot contracts with the likes of the NBA. So as of now, we're pre-revenue. We came out of stealth in mid-November.
Okay. Any other question from the audience? Again, you can ask the questions directly now, or you can send them later or in the chat section, whatever is convenient to you. Okay, I think that's it. If there's no other question from the audience, thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, presenters from Ferrum, Olympia, Aggregion, myself, and Virtual Leap. And thanks, audience. Thanks a lot for joining. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be connecting with you later on via email. We'll be sending you all the information that you need about the projects, and then we'll go from there. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Have a good day, a good night. Bye.